This is part 4 of a series of videos where I articulate in depth what I like and dislike about Batman Arkham Knight being one of the most complicated games I've ever played to talk about. The seemingly polished nature of it resists a peek into the core of the game, and as a massive, and I mean massive fan of all three former games, this game lacks something, and that's what I try to discover in this series. If you want to see more and get to the finale of this series where I basically plan out how I would do Arkham Knight if I made it, then please support this video. It would be greatly appreciated. Also, I want to mention part 2, Defocused. I think the script and editing for that video was great, but the commentary wasn't that great, and I hope people were able to get past that. In this video, I want to clarify that I think the developers at Rocksteady are insanely talented, and Arkham Knight is a result of a complete 180 when it comes to creative management and direction. I'm going to point out some examples from Batman Arkham Knight I genuinely love to illustrate what the base game lacked in terms of storytelling, leading to the conception of what I like to call macro and micro storytelling, concepts that many in the entertainment industry kind of throw to the side. This isn't just Arkham Knight bad, it's to exemplify how to make great art in general. A flip of a coin and Catwoman's Revenge specifically illustrates immaculate and calculated environmental design that complements its narrative focus. These two DLCs are a part of a series of DLCs called the Arkham Episodes, featuring a new main character every episode. I hope to talk about Batgirl and Matter Family in the future because it is genuinely one of the best DLCs in all of Arkham, no joke, but since that was made by WB Montreal, it doesn't entirely apply to this video's purpose. Firstly, a flip of a coin where you play as Robin has a simple plot. Two-Face has broken out of jail and is using his front company, Hell's Gate, to smuggle leftover money from his previous bank robberies. Hell's Gate disguises itself as a garbage disposal company, but in reality, it employs all of Two-Face's henchmen, and this was shown in the base game, of course. This DLC starts off with camera pans of Hell's Gate disposal facility, which plays as a Predator map. What should be garbage on the conveyor belts is money instead. That is then being stuffed into Dia de los Muertos themed skulls. In fact, an entire section of the facility is covered in Day of the Dead decorations. I think the developers chose this holiday because it comes shortly after Halloween, when the base game took place, and it fits with Two-Face as a character. Dia de Muertos is a Mexican week-long holiday that celebrates in remembrance those, usually family, who have passed away and moved on to the next stage of life. Many interpret those living in the second stage to be skeletal figures, which is why skulls are so prominent in this holiday. Two-Face is someone who has died, but can't let go of half of him that still lives. Harvey Dent is stuck in the living world while Two-Face has moved into the land of the dead. The writers could have put the money into teddy bears and it wouldn't nearly have the same effect, because teddy bears say nothing about Two-Face as a character, but these decorative skulls do, and that is very important. This Predator map is also very intricate and unique with many different levels. I think the dialogue between Barbara and Tim is a little lighthearted for Bruce being dead, but I think the arc that this DLC tries to display for Robin is that he is trying to prove that he has the ability to protect Gotham just as well as Batman could. Not only do Barbara and Tim talk about this, but the dialogue of every other character reflects this arc as well.
Where is he? I ain't scared of you. Where? Okay, I'll talk. He's in the main office, I swear. Not bad, huh?
Very scary, honey.
The next multi-stage location is within Hell's Gate headquarters. The most obvious aspect of this place is that half of each room is clean while the other half is black and eroded. The symbol of Hell's Gate, made from black and white, obviously represents Two-Face's reconciliation of good and evil, the gavel representing his former interest in the law. Now, those who already pay attention to these details probably find what I'm saying extremely obvious, as if it doesn't even need to be said, but that's the point. Good narratives don't need to be mind-bogglingly difficult to understand with vague implications. They can be as simple and as obvious as this, where the environment reflects the characters in the narrative. The next aspect of this DLC I like is the emphasis on puzzles, not just like the ones to unlock this door, but the enemy encounters feel like a puzzle. The environment and setup of these goons make for a puzzle that you have to learn your way around instead of just beating your way through. I think the downside of the heavy curated puzzles present in this is that it doesn't offer too much player freedom, but what I didn't really like about the base game is that, yes, there are character types and such, but most encounters felt similar, because they rarely used any sort of environmental or cinematic aspects to their advantage. I'm not saying this never happens. I like the moment in the base base game where you sneak up behind a commander with the explosive vest, or when you find a group of militia all standing in water conveniently placed next to an electrical generator. I like that the encounter in this room is unique to the entire game compared to if they just put a few thugs down at the bottom with no explosive wall or turrets. Pushing X is not the only solution to this puzzle. You find this again when you face a sniper at the end of a hall and you have to use the shield to get close to him. This triggers a really satisfying cinematic introducing Two-Face and transitioning to a new arena. The statue that sits behind Two-Face is beautifully symbolic. He is stuck, forced to reconcile between demons and angels, good and evil, both tugging him equally forever. Again, not hard to understand, and that's perfectly okay. Robin is challenged with the main question: can he do the job Batman left for him?
So the boy becomes a man. Too bad it's short-lived.
No, Tim!
You're not the Bat. Never were, never will be.
And with the defeat of Two-Face, the answer is yes, and therefore ends this arc, this very simple story. Batman Arkham Knight DLC is infamously short, and I am not in any means defending the length of a flip of a coin, but I am pointing out that the developers introduced passionate, immaculate game design not very present in the base game. Not only is this location not just another construction site, it is littered with tons of detail, but all of that detail points back to the main narrative. Everything in this environment is all focused on portraying Robin and Two-Face, nothing else. This environment is absolutely beautiful and unique to every other location in the entire game. The developers were focused on the very point, the purpose of this DLC, and anything not furthering that experience was cut. This may even be thanks to how short the DLC is. They couldn't afford meaningless elements. But that's the idea. The base Batman Arkham Knight didn't have that philosophy and didn't have that level of self-control. Before I talk more about the base game, let's talk about my personal favorite of the two, Catwoman's Revenge. Catwoman's Revenge is set in Riddler's secret hideout in Winslow's toy shop. I think the 3 keycard mechanic is a little repetitive for anyone who played Arkham City's Catwoman DLC, but the thing I absolutely love about this location is that, again, it connects to the narrative, and the design and details are so thorough and artistic. And again, this place is absolute eye candy. I like that the Predator room starts out in one side and then another room is opened up once you obtain the key cards. It's an interesting way to make the obtaining of the cards feel different than when you have to take out everyone in the room. The environment opens up in a satisfying way. Once you take out the goons, the puzzle to enter the final room literally connects to the environment you just explored. So not only is the environment cool, but it has a semi-puzzle use too. The dialogue between the goons is nicely written as well, and aren't random either, because they tell you something about Enigma.
Well, he was gonna replace us with those robots. Yeah, and look how that worked out for him. When Enigma gets out of jail, I think this pack of atavistic idiots ain't no longer gonna be facing our inevitable
One down.
You know, the robots.
We could take care of the robots right now. Go downstairs and trigger Enigma's self-destruct mechanism.
His computer stuff's down there. We blow it up. No more pay. Jeez, Larry. Come on, you need to think tactically if you're gonna outwit the
It shows that he likes to take advantage of lower intelligence people, and that most people perceive him as this pretentious, hyper-intelligent weirdo. You honestly could have never heard of the Riddler before playing this, and you'd fully understand the character by the end of it. One of the goons even says this:
God bless that Enigma and his electronic account system.
Makes me feel bad for all the times I cornered nerds in high school and made them eat their glasses.
which connects to the environment. This wacky toy shop filled with the nerdy, pop culture things and intricate mechanics, such as the miniature Ferris wheel and planes, accurately portrays Enigma, who would have been into that stuff as a kid, and is obsessed with mechanics even as an adult, which perfectly transitions us into the Riddler's robot factory that is below the toy shop. I think Riddler's dialogue is funny and obviously matches his character.
Elevator maximum override activated. Beginning descent. What?
Hey, Eddie,
Catwoman. Catwoman.
aren't you in prison?
Ha! No prison can hold me. Hang on a second.
Why, yes, Officer Cash, I'm just talking to my lawyer.
Get out!
He attacks you with puzzles in the form of arena gameplay. I actually died a few times trying to defeat the final set of robots, but I enjoyed it so much because it didn't feel unearned, and eventually figuring out this arena puzzle gave me a ton of satisfaction. These two characters don't necessarily have a character-changing arc in this DLC, and I think that is okay because both of these characters are extremely determined and never let go of the past. They rarely change their minds on anything. Although this DLC was really short, I experienced a feeling I only ever recognized from the 3 former games. I think this had to do with the emphasis on thorough and focused game design, but also a sense of mystery. Something I many times liked about the 360 era, the Xbox 360, was the use of blue hells, or like the interior load area for a building where it was separate from the open world in its own game space. Batman Arkham Knight does this, but with a totally different loading technique. But what I found unique in the 360 era was that despite this setback, buildings still use see-through windows, and they would try and make the environment outside the window match the open world. I constantly found myself looking through every window. Each one felt like a new mystery. What could I find on the other side of this window? I love that sense of mystery, and I don't remember too much of that in Batman Arkham Knight. Catwoman's Revenge and a flip of a coin both do this with a ton of windows, doors, holes, and skylights to ponder what is beyond them. Now that I have established what Rocksteady can do with focus, it's time to figure out what went wrong with the base game that feels remarkably unrememberable. I attempted to explain this in part 2. The game was defocused and its details lacked narrative value and connections. After thinking about it, I found a good way to explain it. Let me introduce concepts that everyone sort of already subconsciously thinks about, but rarely do people classify them. Macro storytelling is the obvious set of narrative that involves the main plot, main story threads, the major characters, etc. All the main stuff in a story. This is stuff that I'm not even sure a story can actually go without. On the other hand, there is another set of storytelling that isn't entirely necessary, but has extremely immersive and expansionary qualities, micro storytelling. This one involves the fine details, sub-narratives, etc., Easter eggs maybe. Many times people refer to micro storytelling as world building also. Like I explained in the 2 examples in this video, my Gotham Knights world building video, part 2 of this series, my Batman 2022 Gotham City video, and finally, my importance of scenography in film video, there is a consistent generalized rule I have noticed. Micro storytelling is strongest when in direct service and an extension of macro storytelling. In other words, Arkham Asylum masters macro and micro storytelling because they work together to extend and intensify each other. 99% of Arkham Asylum's details tell you something about the main characters or the main narrative. Same thing goes for the DLCs I mentioned. 99% of the details are in place to expand on the greater narrative, whether that be Two-Face's split personality or Riddler's nerdy personality, both expanded on with their respective play spaces. This is narrative focus. For example, what would have less focus is if, hypothetically, someone in development said, yo, I like all the fire in the Robin DLC, let's add a big Firefly Easter egg in the middle of this room. Even if they made the coolest thing on the planet for the Easter egg, it would completely distract from what the narrative is even about. It's entirely random. Now, if this somehow connected to the main story, then it might work. It wastes space that could have been taken on something that actually furthered the narrative. Of course, this is entirely hypothetical because these DLCs don't do that. Now, it's fine if you have random Easter eggs, but they shouldn't be the bulk of your micro storytelling. Arkham Knight's base game seems to care more about the polish of animations, the in-depth mechanics of the Batmobile, the insane graphics, the countless random Easter eggs, and a plethora of random, unnecessary subplots. Founders Island is an amazing idea, I just can't stand that its narrative nature is never even mentioned in the main story. Maybe if Bruce Wayne had an arc in the narrative about his struggles with managing the construction of Founders and the backlash from the citizens who live there, or what if the militia covertly took advantage of the construction before the events of the game, setting up defenses before anyone even knew. But all we can do is assume that these might have happened. Arkham Knight is a weak narrative with sub-narratives that have extremely jarring connections to each other, but it's so polished, it's so pretty, there's just a good few ideas that could have been so well done, but they're just not. Its tech is so captivating that people find it hard to even notice the basic storytelling principles it lacks, the massive missed opportunities it passed up because it is so narratively defocused. Not at the fault of talented developers who worked very hard on this game, but at the fault of fallible game direction. That's usually what the cause is for games such as Batman Arkham Knight. The people who make games are extremely talented, they're amazing, they should be respected for their work, but sometimes games just don't have good direction, and they fall face first.